Welcome back to Fine Tooning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can still listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. Just so you know, Drew and I are doing things a little differently this week. We are recording this week's show on Friday, August 15th, and that is because the Hills are getting together in Halifax, Massachusetts this coming Sunday for a family reunion. I mean, can you imagine that, Drew? So many fat little bald men all together in one place, all of them telling pointless stories at the exact same time. The mind boggles. What about you? What are you and Katie up to this weekend? Anything fun?
Nothing fun. We're just going to try to hang out with our lovely wonder dog, Nova, as she is going into surgery this week. So, trying to have some fun. I heard she got a shout out on Disney Dish this week. So, yes.
What can I tell you? that I love that little dog, and I hope the procedure goes fine. And speaking of which, though, I know you'll probably be sticking close to home after this procedure, but that said, are there any panels and presentations you might be hosting as we?
Nothing right now, but this is what always happens, Jim, is that I'll get a email like 6 hours earlier going, can you be at CAA? It's like, oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. So,
all right.
Yes.
Well, again, folks, apologies for doing things a little differently this week. Not to worry, though. We've got something cool to compensate. Later on in today's show, I'll be talking with voice acting legend Jim Cummings, who will then be talking about how he got his start at Disney, which actually dates all the way back to that weird puppetronic thing. Do you remember Dumbo Circus, the early Disney Channel?
Jim, how could I forget? It scarred me at a young age, and I've been in therapy ever since. People don't realize how weird the early days of the Disney Channel really were.
Oh,
but
yes. I mean, I am still looking for, I want to say they shot 3 episodes of the Dreamfinder television series, which literally the villain lived in a place called the Bewilderness. Gotta find this show. Gotta find it. Anyway, back to Mr. Cummings. He will also be talking about his recent voice work for the Mouse House, which involves a career criminal, Hondo, who'll be making a big-time entrance into Star Wars gaming. Not to mention a revival of that Disney afternoon favorite, Darkwing Duck. But before we get to Let's Get Dangerous, let's get to this week's news. And as always, the news portion of Fine Tuning is brought to you by Unlock Magic, which is where you can get real discounts on Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando tickets, sometimes upwards of 12% off. And just so you know, Unlock Magic is run by the exact same team behind DVC Rental Store and the DVC Resale Market. Just pick your dates, grab your tickets, and then you're on your way with more cash to spend on tickets to Shrek 5. And seriously, though, Drew, how far in advance does Fandango allow you to buy your tickets? I mean, we only just learned this past week that, the 5th installment of that DreamWorks animation film franchise won't arrive in theaters till now June of 2020?
June of 2027. Yeah, okay. Which is putting it like right in the same window as both the second How to Train Your Dragon live action and the third Spider-Verse movie. So that's going to be an interesting see who blinks first kind of situation.
Okay, well, woof.
But yeah, it's interesting. Like they started selling tickets a year out for the Odyssey, the new Christopher Nolan movie. Those all sold out.
That's right.
And the other thing that sold out recently, Jim, I saw just today is the sing-along K-pop Demon Hunters theatrical experience.
Okay, and we're going to share some more info about K-pop Demon Hunters in a moment. But again, I want to remind you, Drew and I are recording this week's Fine Tuning, not on a Sunday afternoon or Monday morning like we usually do, but on Friday night East Coast time. So the box office info that we're about to share, geez, Drew, can we actually call these box office projections at this point? I want to say a better description would be wild-ass box office guesses.
Yeah, at this point, at 4:08 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. But there is, speaking of, is it a projection or is it a wild-ass guess? There's a famous story related to Joe Johnston, the director of Disney's Rocketeer. And by the way, Drew has warned me that before I launch into the story, I must say, allegedly, reportedly, supposedly, right? We want plausible deniable.
Yes. Okay. We just to clear our side of the street.
There we go. Okay, so now before we get into the story, important to understand that the comic book series that the Rocketeer movie was based on first came out in 1982. 3 years later, Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo they began working on a movie version of Rocketeer. This would have been 85. 2 years after that, Disney acquires the film rights to Bilson and DeMeo's script. 3 years after that, the Mouse finally greenlights production, and filming of The Rocketeer gets underway in September of 1990 and then continues through January of the following year, 1991. So again, just to establish here, folks, by the time The Rocketeer finally arrives in theaters on June 21st, 1991, it's already taken 9 years of hard work to reach the big screen. And more to the point, Disney's invested $40 million in making this movie. And as the story goes, Joe is at home on the morning of January 21st, 1991, which again is the very first day that Disney's movie version of The Rocketeers is out in theaters. And he supposedly gets a call at home from Jeffrey Katzenberg, who at that time is the head of Disney Studios. And as the story goes, Jeffrey cuts right to the chase and says the studio is about to pull all of the money that they had previously set aside for a big TV campaign that was supposed to support The Rocketeer over its opening weekend in North American theaters. And this is supposedly because Disney now has in hand information about how soft the ticket sales have been for the initial matinee performances of The Rocketeer on the East Coast. All right? Just to be clear here, folks, Rocketeer hasn't played in any theaters on the West Coast yet. But based on this information alone, the studio has decided that the movie that Joe has worked on for 3 years is now going to tank at the box office. Mind you, just Jeffrey, tell Joe, nothing personal. This is just that Disney is now not willing to throw good money after bad to advertise a film on TV that it knows is going to underperform. And this is just the business side of show business. But that, according to executive Disney, this is not a wild ass guess. This was a realistic business decision that was based on years and years of box office data that Disney had collected and now had in hand, and that allegedly, historically, if a film sells that few tickets at its initial matinees on the East Coast, it's then gonna underperform at the box office over its opening weekend. So that said, again, looking at, for example, the predictions right now, on, as Drew just mentioned, 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon on the West Coast, we have, Universal's Bob Odenkirk, the sequel to Nobody, Nobody 2. It's predicted to do, 10 million? Over its opening weekend, and Weapons is
I don't think it's a hugely expensive movie. Mm-hmm. It's very entertaining. If you like the first one, go see the second one.
Yeah. Okay, and so and again, Weapons has had a solid first week. 64 million. Right behind it is Freakier Fridays. That's 40 million this week. Meanwhile, Fantastic Four is in the third position. Domestic at this point, 238 million. Is that where Marvel wanted it to be at this point, or we're?
No, okay. Jim. I don't.
Okay, all right.
Did you see it? Did you see Fantastic Four?
I did. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Okay.
It was nice to actually go to a Marvel movie without having to do homework first. And meanwhile, the one animated title in the top 5 is, of course, Bad Guys 2. This is its second week in theaters, and it now stands at 49.7 million. Now, if we slide over to the streaming side of animation, Drew, you have some news in regard to K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yes, well, I mean, last week it was revealed that it had entered the top 10 Netflix originals of all time at number 4, and it has thus ascended to number 2, which is pretty amazing. And the only movie in its path is Red Notice, the Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds movie that I'm sure we all forgot seconds after finishing it.
Oh my, that one?
And it, that is the number 1 movie, a Netflix original of all time. Now, this is only based on the first 95 days of release. So we have a little while. I think it's going to get there and be number 1 because the numbers are just steady every week. It's like having a movie make $50 million every week. I mean, it's just insane. So, yeah, I'm very curious to see where it nets out if it can get to that number 1 spot. But, Bellany reported today that Maggie and Chris are in negotiations for the subsequent films in the trilogy. So let's hope that this all gets resolved and they start working on it soon, because I think the world is hungry for more K-pop Demon Hunters.
Now, speaking of which, we talked on last week's show about the sing-along edition of K-pop Demon Hunters, which, again, was only going to be in New York and only for 2 dates. Have those tickets officially gone on sale yet? Do we know? Or
they've officially gone on sale, and there's a few different. It's nationwide now. It's not just in New York. I have to. Yeah, and they've sold out pretty much everywhere. There's different packages at different theaters. I think that the Alamo Drafthouse chain has a different, set of things because, as we know now, the Alamo Drafthouse is owned by Sony. Sony produced K-pop Demon Hunters. There's a lot of synergy there.
There we go.
But what I have heard is that the theaters are actually talking to Netflix about extending the release for more than 2 days.
Okay.
So,
no, I
as they say, Jim, if you're in line for K-pop Demon Hunters tickets, stay in line. That's what they say.
Okay. And I would love to see this in a theater with an audience. It would, just between the sing-along experience and the audience noise. But anyway, continuing on the streaming side of the street, Disney has got to be happy with the news in regard to the King of the Hill revival. I mean, what is it? It's the biggest adult animated premiere in 5 years. Is that right? Or
that's right.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And all episodes are up now, which maybe next time let's put them out weekly. I don't know. Yeah. Just a idea, Jim.
Okay.
I think Alien is going to do okay going week to week. I think that King of the Hill could too.
Okay.
So
duly noted.
Yeah.
And speaking of aliens, this past summer we got a film with animated aliens, and that was Elio. And as you pointed out, as we were pre-gaming this week's show, we now know when this Pixar animated feature will arrive on digital. That's next week, right? Today, the show, the day
where the show is on. Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Well, that's cool. And then physical media, which Drew and I are huge supporters of. We got to wait on the Blu-ray, the Ultra High Def, and the DVD till September, right? The 9th? Am I?
Yes.
Okay.
September 9th, yes.
All right.
But worth the wait, I'm sure. I just got my Lilo and Stitch 4K in the mail, so I'm excited to look at that.
Cool.
The new one. Yeah.
Okay, now to circle back to the Shrek news, which, important to remember here, folks, in regard to Shrek 5. What is it? The Universal's acquisition of DreamWorks in June of 2016. They paid $3.8 billion, and we heard instantaneously, right, that there was a Shrek and a Puss in Boots sequel in development, and I remember the coverage back there that they seemed so confident that this was going to happen quickly. They were talking about it coming out, the Shrek 5, in 2019. Clearly not the case. In fact, we didn't get Puss in Boots: The Last Wish till December of 2022. I will say it was completely worth the wait. I love that movie. And
it's great.
Yep. And let's remember, it actually had a mid-credit sequence that set up Shrek 5. It showed Puss and Kitty Softpaw sailing off too far away. But Shrek 5, okay. Originally, once it actually really going forward, was supposed to come out July 1st of next year, 2026. Then got delayed. That was the phrase they used, to December 23rd of 2026. And now just in the past week, we have learned new release date, June 30th, 2027. How much of this, Drew, do you think is just due to the fact that, I face it, the previous 4 Shrek films all came out in May. In fact, they came out in May within, 3 days of one another? May 18th, May 19th, May 21st. And that's 2001, 2004, 2007, 2010, every 3 years like clockwork. So do you think, how much of this is...
Well, they've kind of ceded that weekend to Pixar, right? Because that was back when Pixar was a Thanksgiving release.
Yes, it
primarily.
was. Yes, it was. So,
So yeah, it's a movie schedule hoedown going on, but they're still clearly very committed. I just wonder, I don't think it's any secret now that there's a donkey movie that's being produced as well.
Yeah,
and I wonder where that kind of fits in, because I had heard that they wanted sort of a continuum of Shrek product for a good amount of years, but it will have been so long since even Puss in Boots has come out by the time the Shrek has come out.
Yeah.
So I don't know where Donkey fits in there. I don't know what the other plans are for the world, but I've heard the movie's going well and that they've kind of figured out the story, and I just think that Christmas of 26 is going to be a bloodbath with Avengers coming out, and I think this is maybe a smarter move. But again, like we said, there's a lot of family stuff happening in June of 2027, so I don't know.
That said, I cannot wait to see what Dean does with How to Train Your Dragon 2. And just, the whole notion of, I think you and I have talked about this. There was a story they were going to do, and there was a story that they did do. And it's just sort of like,
yes,
what's he going to do this time around? Are we going to...
I would say the last couple of times I've seen Dean, I have, let's say, gently prodded Jim. Is that for him to follow up on the... less PC version of How to Train Your Dragon 2.
That would be so cool if he actually did that. So, all right. Anyway, getting back to Shrek for a second, interesting little side note here. Jim Cummings actually provided the voice of the captain of the Duloc Guards in the very first Shrek film. And when we get back from this break, you'll hear my interview with Jim Cummings. And we're back. And folks, you are in for a treat. For here now, I think the way you describe yourself over on your podcast is best. And speaking of which, let's get the plug out of the way early. Tuned in with Jim Cummings.
Okay, thank you for that.
No. It's been.
I'm sorry. What did you say? Tuned in with Jim Cummings.
There we go. There's an echo in here. Tuned in with Jim Cummings. This podcast has been up and running since June of 2023. And if you're not already listening to the show, you will by the time we finish today's interview.
That's right.
Because here now is the voice of your childhood, Mr. Jim Cummings.
That's right. Well, thank you very, very much, Jim. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jim Hill. And I think that would make a good T-shirt. Yes, I was the voice of your childhood, because people just come up and tell me that a lot. So you might be onto something, my friend.
Okay. Now, before we officially get started here, I have to say, look at you, breaking big news over on Tuned In. I mean, just yesterday, I was over at the Deadline website, and their big headline for that afternoon was your interview with Alan Tudyk. You know, the one you did. Yeah, the iRobot story about how, with the
I know.
The early test screenings, and Alan evidently, his audience scores were higher than Will Smith's, and so the studio then scrubbed him out of the press material.
So take that.
There we go. But I love that, Deadline actually went out of their way to say this story initiated over on Tuned In. So
that's good. We can live with that, right?
We can. All right, so 113 episodes now. And I have to say, every time I listen, I learned something new about a movie or a TV show that I loved.
Oh, well, good.
And then the guests you have. I mean, just in the past few weeks.
Yes.
April Winchell, Sean Austin, Brad Garrett, Susan Egan. Yes. These huge talents. And yet, what's really great about Tuned In is when you listen, what makes it's a genuine joy about the show. It's like you're listening to a conversation between two old friends, and in a lot of cases, these people are legitimately.
It usually is, yeah. My friend encapsulated it and said that it's the voices you know, but the faces you don't.
That's great. That's great.
And I think that's right on the money.
No, it is. I mean, I especially enjoyed the recent episode with April. And, I mean, you guys go way back. I mean, a Goof Troop.
Sure.
That right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, Goof Troop, she was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was one of my first jobs, period.
Oh, okay.
And so, and of course, her dad and I were friends, God rest his soul, the great Paul Winchell. So, it was very, very natural, feels like home, and she's been my wife in separate cartoons. She was Lucky Piquel's wife, Peg, in Bonkers. And then she was Pete's wife, Peg, in Goof Troop. And my wife's name is Margaret, a.k.a. Peg, in real life. So here we are.
Wow. Okay.
Life imitating art.
That is killer. Now, you mentioned, an early job in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but to be honest, your career with Disney actually dates back even further than that. I mean, didn't you get started for the mouse with Dumbo Circus, that puppetronic show from like the 80s?
Very, gosh, I think maybe a year apart. Yeah, it wasn't puppets. It was actually people in costume. And I was Lionel the lion, the little guy. And, they were, since there were people in costume, he was meant to mimic Timothy from Dumbo, but they couldn't have like a 5-foot mouse, even, so they decided to make him a lion. And I was Dumbo. I was Dumbo's best pal. And Katie Lee, my buddy, that was the first time I met her and worked with her, and she was Dumbo. Yeah, and we did 65 episodes, and I didn't even have an agent.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you book the gig without an agent?
Well, I had a friend. I was working at a video store, and a friend of mine said, Frank Brandt and Caroline Hay are casting. They're doing a show for Disney, and why don't you just go up and tell them I sent you? And you can audition. So I did, and I got the job on the spot.
How cool.
So that worked out. And he said, "What are your Wednesdays looking like?" And I said, "I don't know. I hope they're looking like me coming here." And he said, "They are." And I said, "Okay, let's do it." And by the time we got started, a few weeks in, I went to a place called the Voice Caster in Burbank, and Kathy Levin was kind enough to point me over to Sandy Schnarr, agent. And since then, I've been with Jeff Danis of ICM fame and Danis brand consultants, and the rest is history. And here we are today.
And what amazes me, though, is if you look back over your origin story, I mean, it's wonderful you're represented by ACM, but think about where you started out, Youngstown, Ohio.
I mean, hotbed of dramatic intrigue. Well, Ed O'Neill from Married with Children and Modern Family, he's an old pal of mine. In fact, the first TV show I did, I was like 7 or 8 years old. I was on camera, and he was a senior in high school, and he played Father O'Neill, and I played the cute little kid. And it was a live TV production, and we both got the bug early. And here we are.
Well, and now you mentioned, early on when we were doing the preview interview about New Orleans, and that has the city a special place in your heart. But you leave Youngstown to go to New Orleans. What sent you there?
Mardi Gras.
Okay.
Yeah, Mardi Gras. No, my old buddy got out of the Army, and he said, "Well, I'm going to Mardi Gras," and I go, "Okay, I'll go too." And so we did, and I decided to just stay. And I became a deckhand on a riverboat, which is where I picked up the Cajun accent. And I designed and painted Mardi Gras floats for a few years, and that was a gas. And I just had the time of my life, and eventually drifted out to California, made a demo tape. And as I said, I was fortunate. I was blessed. I got the first thing I auditioned for, and that kind of launched me. I was very fortunate, and I was, it's kind of nice.
Well, but the timing of this, when you decided to go and when you, stepped into the industry, I mean, think about it. In this same window of time is when Les Perkins is setting up the character voice department at Disney. And,
and there's Dempsey.
There we go. And now there's this interesting thing going on at the company. In fact, I think it was Les who was arguing that, if you hear like Donald Duck for the parks, he sounds different than Donald Duck for the Storytell album, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was good to have localized to narrow it down to one actor, and which I think was a good idea. Obviously, it was for me because a lot of them.
Well, no, that's it exactly. To be there as Disney starts to do this and starts to look for the one guy to do, say, Pooh or Tigger or Pete. And tell you what, folks, when we get back from this break, we're going to talk about what this decision at Disney meant for Jim Cummings' career. But first, this.
Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55%, so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
And we're back with voice acting legend, Jim Cummings.
Shucks. Well, thank you, Jim.
And by the way, you were just up in my neck of the woods this past weekend.
Yes,
you were
love
in Boston for Fan Expo.
Yes.
You were explaining as we were getting started here that you have a special place in your heart for Beantown. Why is that?
Well, yeah, it's just a beautiful place. In its spirit, it reminds me a bit of New Orleans. It's got that old history. America was born there, really, if you think about it. And, Paul Revere's Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. And I'm an old Disney kid, and I can remember Ghost the Scarecrow was set in Boston, and Johnny Tremaine of Old Boston Town. And so I just loved it. It's a beautiful place and beautiful people and pretty good food. That helps.
All right. And you've got a number of other convention appearances coming up later this year. I mean, for example, this coming weekend, August 22nd to 24th, you're Nostalgicon in Houston.
Yes, please come on down.
There we go. Weekend after that, August 29th through the 31st, you're going to be at SAC Anime, which is at the Convention Center in Sacramento. And then a few weeks after that, you're going to be down in Milwaukee, the September 26th to the 28th, also doing Nostalgicon there. And then finally, bring things kind of full circle. You're going back to the Big Easy.
There you go.
In November 21st to the 23rd
I'm
for
go down there and have
Nostalgicon.
a beignet.
There we go.
Or a po' boy.
Okay. Can we talk about what is it like for you to do these sorts of fan events? I mean, what's your typical interaction?
I really love it. I really love it because some people tell me these stories that'll just put you on your knees. You know, they'll say that, this Winnie the Pooh saved them because they were latchkey kids and they had to come home and they'd watch the Disney afternoon. And by the time their parents got home, the Disney afternoon was over, but they were safe inside their house because they were glued to the TV instead of gallivanting around the neighborhood. And it's very rewarding, to know that people will come up to me all the time and oftentimes just burst into tears. And then I get close to doing the same because, Winnie the Pooh will be there and Tigger will tell him to don't forget to keep on bouncing. And of course, Darkwing Duck, who he's a huge fan favorite. And I should mention that there's a not so unsubstantiated rumor, because we're doing it, that Darkwing's coming back with brand new episodes. So please stay tuned.
That is so cool.
Tuned in.
All right.
And they will really be tuned in with Jim Cummings. But you see how I did that?
There we go. Nice plug. Very smooth. Barely noticed.
And I love doing these because it's great because voice actors should not necessarily be faceless. They're certainly not voiceless, and I love, putting a face to the voice, and the people really respond to that. And it's a mini quest for me.
No,
it's interesting.
No, that should. I love that idea. As somebody who's spent a lot of years interviewing folks like Tom Kenny or Billy West or that sort of thing, they're huge talents and very sweet people. Anyway, to circle back now to your early days at Disney, so you come on their radar, just as the character voice department is kind of getting up out of the ground, and you wind up as the new voice for, again, Disney legacy characters like Winnie the Pooh and Pete. And so what was that like? I mean...
it's great. I take my work seriously, but I don't take myself seriously. I like to have fun with it, and I like to keep a light heart. And, people respond to that, and I'm honored. I'm just, it's the kind of thing that I always knew I wanted to do, but, I can't. You can only aim for the target. You aim and fire, then do your best. And so far, so good. I'm over here for 40 some years. And so it's not bad, and, one of the things that I'm hoping to do, who was it? Richard Lawson with Vanity Fair. He, after Christopher Robin, he was very, very kind to me. Thank you. And he put forth that the Academy should make a new category, Oscar category, for voiceover. Oh. And if anybody's out there and has any juice, let's put our heads together and let's get that going. I of course I'd like to win one, but I'd like somebody to win one.
Well,
and we're getting close. I think
argue that, for example, your work with Pete over the past 30 years. I know Pete from when Billy Belcher did him way back in the day.
Yes.
And what you've done with that character
It's Bletcher, by the way.
Betcher. My mistake.
Bletcher. Yeah, I'm sure he did, but he did a lot of belching.
Yeah, but
so you could be right.
Okay, but what you did with Pete for the Three Musketeers, or what you did in the Goofy movie, I mean, in the Three Musketeers, he's a comic villain with real menace, but flip side.
Oh yeah.
If you go with the Goofy movie and that talk that Pete and Goofy have in the hot tub, I mean, that literally sets off the drama of the story. I mean, and that's real acting there between you and Bill Farmer.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, that was a very sweet movie. I was very proud of that. In fact, it was their 30-year anniversary just recently.
It was.
And it was kind of nice. We were in Boston. I had a chance to go to the theater where they were screening it. Mm-hmm. And as a surprise, they had me get up on stage and welcome everybody. And everybody just went nuts. And I was very honored. It was very rewarding.
It was
just great stuff.
So cool. All right. Now speaking of Bill Farmer, I'm lucky enough to be friendly with Bill. And he and I have talked about what people don't understand about voice acting, like how genuinely tough it is. I mean, Bill, for example, talks about how, on a day when he's got to do Pluto, it's like, okay, that's at the end of the day because that's going to blow out my voice. I mean, did you have the same issue like when you did Taz?
Yes. Well, I whenever I do Taz, I always do perform him on a Friday afternoon. And we did, I think 65 episodes of Tasmania. Mm-hmm. And especially since I was like 5 or 6 other characters as well. Mm-hmm. Bushwhacker Bob and many other characters. Mm-hmm. And so I would just request that we have to do those on Friday afternoon so that my pipes can rest up over the weekend and I can work on Monday morning.
Got that.
So, yeah.
Got that. Okay.
Yes.
But you know what especially impresses me about your career? Those moments where you pull a Marnie Nixon, where I'm not supposed to know it's Jim Cummings singing for what, Jeremy Irons or Russell Means or a Christopher Lloyd.
Right.
And that's got to be genuinely tough to not only imitate a specific performer's voice, but then sing as the character that performer is supposed to be portraying.
Yes. Well, I thought it was great. It's one of my favorite things. It's basically what I started doing first. As a kid, I was in high school. I think I want to say I was 13 first time I played out. I'm a drummer, and I was always the drummer. And then we'd be learning songs, and slowly but surely it surfaced that I was suitable to be the lead singer in all of these bands. And in fact, the last band that I was in, Fusion in New Orleans, where I actually made a good living a long time ago, but. That was the only one that I was only the singer in, and of course I played lead tambourine.
Well,
so
okay,
you gotta know that
you gotta have a fallback skill.
Yeah, and I think the fact that that I've got all those voices and all those characters in me, and I can sing, that works out. It's I'm very grateful. I've got a hall full of platinum and gold, and I love it. I'm waiting on the next one.
Very cool. Now, speaking of singing, I've heard from our mutual friend Margaret that one of the things that's on your bucket list is to record an album of country music in Nashville. Is that?
I think that would be astonishing.
Okay, and then
or standards, Disney standards.
Well, now speaking of which, given that, I mean, there's a brand new Seth MacFarlane album on the market right now. Now, tell me, if people are buying Seth MacFarlane albums, they wouldn't buy a Jim Cummings album. There's got to be a market.
He's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. But even so,
he's astonishing. I mean, he's an incredible singer, writer, actor, direct producer. He does it all. I mean, that guy is just like a one-man band.
Well, but at the same time, you're no slouch. I mean, every time I listen to the Pocahontas soundtrack, and I'm listening to Powhatan, and it's like, this man's good.
Oh yeah, Well, thank you.
All right. Well,
yeah.
Okay. Well, we could keep talking with Mr. Cummings forever, and well, for example, talk about what's coming next year, 2026, for the 100th birthday of Winnie the Pooh, which makes me think we might hear a little bit more of your take on the silly old bear.
Yes. Exactly right.
Oh.
But only for a smackerel of honey.
Okay. But speaking of which, though, I have to ask, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the challenge of doing a legacy character, or, for example, being the guy who gets to create a voice for a new character, like, again, Darkwing or Ray, or Professor Nimnel, my personal favorite from...
Oh, yeah. Well, that's funny you bring up Professor Nimnel. He was a dead ringer for my old pal. He's no longer with us, Bruce Talkington, a Disney writer, animator, and they did a caricature of him. Mm-hmm. And he didn't sound like Bruce. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness for Bruce. God rest his soul. But that's a little inside football there. Okay. Inside.
All right.
But yeah, it's and as far as which one I prefer, well, I enjoy doing the legacy characters because it means a lot to people, and since I've been doing this for such a long time, I'm now at a point where Darkwing Duck is a legacy. Bonkers is a legacy character.
They are. That's a great point. Okay.
Yeah, and I just am crazy about it. And I have to tell you, one of my all-time favorites isn't that old, but I think maybe 15, 18 years now. Hondo Ohnaka from Star Wars.
Oh, and by the way, again, we've got a new game coming to market with that's all about Hondo.
Yes, you do.
Oh,
so be on the lookout. Hondo is not done with you yet, my friend.
Oh, that is so cool. All right, folks. Well, if you want to learn more about Jim Cummings and his illustrious career, you seriously need to be listening to his amazing podcast, Tuned In, which is available on all of the online platforms.
All of the above, YouTube, Etch-a-Sketch, you name it.
So anyway, Jim, this has been an absolute treat. So thank you so much.
That is wonderful.
For coming on this week's show.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Jim. Be well.
That was great. And thanks to Mr. Cummings for making the time to come on Fine Tuning this week. And with that, folks, that wraps up this week's edition of this podcast. But again, if you're looking for other wonderful stuff to listen to, I want to remind you that there are nearly 300 episodes of Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, to choose from. And Drew and his wonderful co-host, Charles Hood, they interviewed everybody in Hollywood who came to the table with all sorts of wonderful stories that were much better than my Joe Johnson, Jeffrey Katzenberg stories. So you go there, listen to them, hear that stuff. On the other hand, if you're looking for other stuff to listen to, we have some other podcasts here at Jim Hill Media. We have Disney Dish, which we do with Len Testa. Likewise, we have the Epic Universal podcast that I do with Eric Hersey. Also, I Want That Too, our Disney merch podcast, I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren. Also want to remind you that this past Saturday, a brand new episode of Manufacturing the Magic went live. That's the themed entertainment history podcast that we host here at Jim Hill Media. That's produced by Noah and Shelley Valladolid. And let's see. Just yesterday, Len and Jim Schul and I recorded a brand new episode of Disney Unpacked. That's our video series for Patreon. This episode was about the Main Street Opera House and how every show in that theater has some issues. Speaking of which, Drew, did you see the image of the Walt animatronic sort of sagging to the side that was on social media?
I did, Jim. We all need a break, every once in a while.
Oh, no, that's it exactly. It's been out here. It's been like close to 100 degrees. So the way Walt looked, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you should do something about the opera house that was supposed to be built on Main Street of the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Remember that announcement from D23 a few years ago?
That is an excellent point. I will put that on the pile. No, that's a great idea. Okay, as we close up this week's episode of Fine Tuning, I want to thank Eric Hersey and David Gray for the excellent job they do when editing and producing this podcast, especially last week's show where I had a giant, horrible buzz sound. Also, I want to ask a favor of you folks. If you could head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, well, not just this show, Fine Tuning, but also Light Diffuse. And also want to direct your attention to social media as we head out the door. Drew, where can the nice folks find you on social media?
On X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and on Instagram as Drew Tailored. So if you want dog updates, go there.
Yes. Okay. And as for me, you can find us on X and Instagram at Jim Hill Media, and then over on Facebook is Jim Hill Media News. And just a personal request here, folks, send some kind thoughts Nova's way as she heads into surgery this week. Cute little dog. We want her around a much longer time.
Yes.
Anyway, on behalf of Mr. Taylor, thank you for listening to this week's Fine Tuning, and we will be back soon.